eggs are. We're on air at Spreaker, and we are pressing start to Google Hangout.
Are you going to do a little intro?
I'm going to do a little intro. But first I'm going to...
Mom. I like this.
I'm going to. Let's invite Mom.
Well, people can dial in.
Well, I did already invite my circles, so she's invited.
Maybe like people use the circles.
I don't even know how to use this stuff.
I'm inviting my circles and my extended circles.
You can eat my greens.
All right, fine.
I like this idea. Brunch and book club.
Okay, invite. Go.
It's
Now.
fun.
Now it's saying skip. Why is it saying skip?
What are you drinking?
We are drinking
Mary.
Bloody Marys, and we are eating nice homemade brunch, and
Delicious.
it's the Judy Blume Book
There you
Club
go.
and Brunch.
Mm.
We are broadcasting live from Chicago, Illinois. Hey, where am I supposed to look? Hey.
The camera's right there.
Okay. All right, well, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here.
We're here.
All right.
I'm here.
Jana's here.
Woo! Us too.
Jana Marlise here from Sacramento, California, representing.
Start broadcast.
Crap.
That whole time.
This is all on the podcast, though. Don't
Oh,
worry.
okay,
This
okay.
is all on the podcast. Okay, go live. And
And
scene. This
We're
hangout
live.
is on live. Doing it. Cheers. Hey, let's have a little toast. It's Judy Blume Book Club and
And
Brunch. It's like being
Hey.
15, but better.
because we can drink.
Yeah.
Legally.
Well,
I didn't drink when I was 15.
neither did I.
Yeah, then what about you guys?
Neither did I.
Drinkers?
Oh.
Two guests at the table today. Larissa at Marga Pictures,
Hello.
right? Krista, what are you? At
At
Krista?
Funny Lady 419.
At Funny Lady 419. We're all on the Twitters. I'm Pop Goes Alicia. Who are you?
Just Jana.
Just Jana.
Mm-hmm.
Just Jana. That always reminds me of Jewel of the Nile. Remember that movie with Kathleen Turner? Just
No.
Joan. Just Joan. You remember that? Nobody remembers that? We're my pop culture people. I hope you're in the
No,
internet.
I wasn't
Whoever
allowed
can
to
remember
watch
that,
that
tweet me. Hashtag I'm not crazy. I know movies from them. That had to be late 80s. Well, so we're here today. Jana's in town from Sacramento, where she does a True Story, a live lit show,
Mm-hmm.
which you can also follow online. And she's the publisher of Under the Gumtree magazine, underthegumtree.com. Or, okay.
Yep.
And they're always looking for submissions, creative nonfiction.
Yes.
Does it have to be creative?
Yes.
Boring nonfiction is not accepted.
Not accepted.
Anything else? Did I forget anything else?
That's about it. I mean, I have a co-working space also in Sacramento
Oh,
called
right.
Think House Collective.
Think
which
House.
which I run with my husband. Oh, look, your mom is chatting us.
Mom,
Mom.
please invite me again. All right, how do we do it? Now I don't even know how to. Kay, let's say that first.
Okay.
So, I'm going to keep doing this. Can you figure out how to invite her?
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay. See if you can. Go maybe this page. All right, so we are reading 3 of our favorite Judy Blume books. They look backwards to me, but not to the people at home, right?
Right.
Okay. Jana's the tech savvy one, which is hilarious because you're not really that tech savvy, but you're really good at figuring things out. So, Jana and I.
What is that, like a backhanded compliment?
No, but I mean, it's not like you like build websites or like.
Well,
can
kind
you?
of I do.
Oh.
I mean, WordPress.
All right.
I mean, underthegumtree.com, janamarlise.com, thinkhousecollective.com. Those are all websites that I built. Thank you very much. Woo!
STEM. Girls in tech.
Your mom is here. She figured it out.
Mom's here.
Aunt Chris.
Aw.
Mom's here. She's listening. All right, Mom's here. I'm chewing. What's happening? This is happening.
What else has happened? Who's joining
Oh.
us?
Hi. You're just going to listen for now. Hi. All right, great. So glad to have everyone here. Can we make that stop or no? It doesn't matter. It's only when she's talking.
It's only when she's
All right, so Jana and I grew up on the Jersey Shore. We have lots of fond memories of summers together. We're cousins on the Jersey Shore, and Judy Blume is from New Jersey,
Right.
which we didn't really know. We were like, let's do Judy Blume Book Club because it's adolescent lit. We love her. And then we were like, no kidding. She's from New Jersey. Go figure.
And all of her books are set in New Jersey.
Right. So
What?
we started with starring Sally J. Friedman as herself.
What happens in this book?
Larissa. So let's talk about Sally J. Friedman is Judy Blume says one of her most autobiographical books.
Yes.
So a lot based on Judy's character. It takes place in the late 40s?
Late 40s, just after World War II.
On the Jersey Shore. Well,
But
sort
she
of.
takes a trip to Miami.
They relocate to Miami. And not saying anything.
I forget what I was going to say.
So what you really liked about this book, you were saying, was Sally's character is constructing stories in her head to help her like cope with things. And one of the things she's coping with is they're a Jewish family and they relocate from northeastern New Jersey, Jersey Shore to South Florida, which is really interesting because I had that same experience growing up. But I was in middle school. I was a little older than Sally.
Right.
Just a little bit.
Right. Yeah, so Sally is this really imaginative little girl. She's in 4th grade, right?
Yeah, 4th grade.
And she is forever making up stories in her head. And there are these, like, adventure stories where she is the hero. And she's doing all of these bold, courageous things. And what's really fascinating, I think, is she casts herself as the hero in the stories that she makes up. I think because she doesn't feel that way in real life.
She's kind of the underdog. Like, she's got this older brother who is kind of good at everything. And just for the time period, you know, the girls and boys had very different roles in the household anyway. And they've moved to Miami because the brother was very sick.
Right.
And so they wanted to be in a warm climate. And the father has stayed behind. And so they're sort of this working class Jewish family. And they have relatives, like very close relatives who died in the Holocaust.
Yes.
So Sally has this whole fascination with Hitler too.
Mm-hmm.
And so in her fantasies, she like goes after Hitler.
She full on confronts Hitler himself.
Yeah, like, and we were talking about how she, because of her youth, you know, she's like a 4th grader. She has this innocence of thinking that like she could have access to Hitler. You know, that she could just be walking down the street and be like, hey, buddy. And then Hitler was across the street and I totally went up to him. You know? Which I think is super empowering. And we were talking about how Judy Blume is very subversive in her writing. You know, she has these feminist messages that aren't exactly overt. But if you know the patterns we have about characters in whether it's film or television or literature, which really began, even in the way we construct news stories, we don't always see women as being empowered, and especially something like being able to fight off this huge cultural kind of bad guy too, you know, like it's really saying, you know, that this little girl was thinking about the world and thinking about how the things happening in the world affected her, and she wasn't afraid to participate in taking some action against it and against the injustice. And we don't really describe heroes that way. I mean, last year with the Oscars, they just did a hero montage, and they barely showed any girls. And of course, they showed like Katniss and maybe a couple X-Men, and these are all great and empowered hero characters, but they also follow this same pattern of being a hero by fighting or dominating, or instead of, you know, making some kind of change or using your mind, or even this idea of being creative and in your fantasies, you're you know, fighting people or sticking up for people.
Right. And beyond the hero story, Sally herself is just a character who's questioning the norms so she is experiencing this discrimination as a Jewish person and wrestling with like, okay, well, why did the Holocaust happen, and what's this deal with Hitler having this thing against Jews? And then in her everyday life, there's still a lot of segregation in Miami. And there's a scene where she and her friend are at this store and they go get a drink out of the water fountain, but it's the colored water fountain, and they get in trouble. Like there's
by a colored woman.
No, wasn't it a white lady? An older white lady who says, "Don't drink from that fountain; you'll get their germs."
Oh, I think I misread that sentence, but yes,
yeah.
And there's
and don't let your mothers know. Like, don't get caught drinking from that fountain too.
And her dad is a dentist, and so then she asks her dad, like, you know, because you're a dentist, you must know, do their mouths really have different germs?
Yeah, she's
That's
like legit.
smart.
Yeah,
It is.
she is.
It
She's
is.
very smart. She's
Very
extremely
smart.
and that's what she's curious, and you don't really see her get in trouble for it, which is good, but you do see her kind of going through and processing a lot of stuff, I would say, kind of on her own.
Right.
Because, like even one of her girlfriends says to her one time, like, Sally's like, oh, you're making a joke, right? Because the girl was being sarcastic. And the girl was like, oh, Sally, don't be dumb. And she was like, I'm not. Like, it was kind of, she's still at this, like, innocent place of discovering and understanding, but she's totally curious and asking.
Right. Like the part where the aunt gets pregnant, her aunt gets pregnant, and
Up in New
Sally
Jersey,
wants to know, the adults start talking about an addition. And she doesn't know what they mean by that.
Oh, right.
So she says, what will the addition look like?
She's trying to, like, ask questions that don't show that she doesn't know.
Exactly.
You know, she's like, so.
And then my favorite part was she asks her mom, how does a woman get pregnant? And the mom is, like, uncomfortable, doesn't want to explain.
Right.
And so she just says, well, the man implants the seed inside the woman. And she wants to know, well, but how does the seed get there? And the mom won't.
All great questions.
The mom won't answer. So the mom gets her a book.
All right.
And she writes a letter. Before she gets the book, she writes a letter to her aunt. And she says something like, I'm so glad Uncle, whatever his name is, got the seed planted.
First of all, now this is going to be interesting, and we've got my mom here. Did your mom get you a book? No. Gianna had more. Well, my mom, you got us a book. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You can talk.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was like to share it with me and Pete? So I have a brother who's 3 years younger than me.
I don't remember the incident you're talking about. I just remember getting you the book.
Okay. So I don't remember an incident. I don't really remember the moment either, but I remember the book and the pictures and, like, flipping through it. And then Jana had a little more of a...
Well, it was part of...
You mean the moment of that? I thought you meant a Judy Blume book.
No, like the...
Well, no, I remember the moment, and Peter was there.
Okay. What do you...
I just copied what my mom did.
What did she do?
She got some kind of catalog how-to book. You know, like that character on Glee where she always pulls out a pamphlet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I had one of those. And I just said, you know, this is what you should know. And I went through it like a storybook.
Bedtime story.
And, you know, if he does it when you're not married, then this is what you should do. And, you know, I just went through it. I don't know what Peter was thinking because he was really young. I figured if I hit you both at the same time, then I wouldn't have to do a mommy-boy thing. But I did have to do a mommy-boy thing when we were in Florida.
All right. Well, that's another podcast. So we'll definitely do that one too.
Right.
But it's a good segue to the Latin lover.
I heard that she was in Miami, which is interesting because I live in Florida now.
Right. Yeah, and it's a different culture. Well, what I was going to say, just to add on to the innocence of the sex talk and whatnot, she starts writing letters to her friends. Right, so she hears someone tells her something about Latin lovers are the best, and now she's got this idea of like a Latin lover in her head.
She wants to know where Latin is.
Right. And then, oh my God, this is my favorite part. I totally forgot about it kind of until just now. She's writing letters to her friends, and she's seen a babysitter or something writing a letter to her boyfriend,
Yes.
and who signs it love and other indoor activities.
Other indoor sports.
Yeah, other indoor sports. So she's writing a letter to like her girlfriend in the same grade as her, and she signs it that way. And you're just like, I think even later in the book, she sends one to like her grandma or an aunt, like love and other indoor sports, and she has just no idea. She's like, I like the way it sounds. You know? But yeah, so there is this. Well, one of the themes, obviously, in all these books, it's about adolescence, is growing up. And so just this idea of what growing up looks like to girls, specifically, because these are all female-driven stories. And, you know, Krista was saying before when we were prepping and making breakfast, she was saying how you were saying how you were, like, obsessed with like being girly. So this like idea of being a woman had this very specific look. And in this book, there's a character that Sally gets to meet. Her dad has made an acquaintance with this kind of like East Coast, probably one of our uncles.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like this sort of like East Coast, hey guy, you know, come on, we're all friends here.
And he's a stockbroker.
Right.
So he's like, got all this money.
And he's like, you know, dinner, bring the whole family. And he's got this girlfriend that Sally is just like, because she's in the like low cut silk dress and she's got the diamond necklaces and she's got the beautiful 40s wavy, she looks like a movie star, you know? And
that's what I was obsessed with
Yeah.
as a kid.
Yeah.
I wanted all of that.
Yeah.
And my no one told me to be that way. I just
Sure.
was that way from the age I could watch movies and see girls
Well,
had boobs and dresses.
And that's who told you to be that way.
That's true. The movies did.
The movies did, yeah.
But
But I chose to like
right.
that.
You were
know?
saying your family.
Like that's what I was struck by.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think sometimes that's pretty common too with a lack of heavy, like, traditional female presence. Like if your mom wasn't super into things like that. And certainly at that discovery age, you are like...
Oh, yeah.
I
mean, my mom grew up as a tomboy, and so my upbringing was not girly at all. And I always had short hair, and I was like dreading the day. We'll get to this when we talk about Margaret. I was just dreading the day that my period was going to start.
And I was looking forward to it.
Looking forward
I
to
was so
it.
excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, my mom was feminine. She certainly wasn't a tomboy, but they just allowed me to like what I liked and just kind of grow up in the way that I wanted to grow up.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I was obsessed with my period starting.
there will be lots of period talk.
Yeah.
I think like for me, like it was different, and this is one of the themes in the book too. And I think, and I mean this comes up a lot too, but I had a brother that I was really close with, and my parents were divorced, so our sibling dynamic I think was different than some people's were. So he and I were really close, and growing up, we did a lot of the same things together. Like we would go out and play wiffle ball on the street with the other neighborhood kids, but we would also, like, our family was very into musical theater, and we had an aunt who was on Broadway who I was kind of obsessed with. And but my brother and I would also sit around and like sing songs and do little shows for our parents, you know. So like it felt like we had this just sibling connection that
it wasn't boy girl,
right?
Yeah.
And then I got my boobs, I feel, kind of early. And I wasn't, like, I was still in the head of being a child. And I got this, like, started becoming, like, sexualized kind of before I really knew what it meant. And it's funny, I just did a show where I did a story about this. And I have a show Monday night, Chicago, Snubfest at Zany's. And I think I'm going to do the same story. It's like my boob story. And, yeah, so I think that, like, that...
You got your boob size quickly.
Yes. And people noticed and commented.
So you didn't grow into your body. Your body just went... God bless you.
Yeah, that's how I roll, guys. All or nothing. In it to win it. No boobs, boobs. And then when I was 19, I was like, let's cut these suckers off. But we'll get to that too. But no, so that whole relationship to womanhood, I think with girls especially, is very much attached to our bodies. And I know boys are too. I just think it's in a very different way. And then as we develop, it's all still, I feel, rooted in a lot of what had happened or what happens in the adolescent period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
should we move on?
Move on. Sally J. We're done. All right. So next we're going to save Margaret for last because everybody kind of has this relationship to Margaret, and we'll talk about that. So the next one we read was Tiger Eyes, and I hadn't read this one. You hadn't read this one.
No.
So we hadn't read this as youths. Have you guys?
I never heard of it.
And I hadn't read Sally J. either, and neither had you.
I had.
You had.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people I've talked to read Sally J, so they had a relationship with it. Tiger Eyes was my favorite, and Jana knew it was going to be, and everybody knew it was going to be.
That's because Davy, the character, is basically Alicia.
Well, 14-year-old badass. I'm going to cry. Like, it just, one thing I'll say is also, the writing and this story reminded me a lot of Sarah Dessen, who's a contemporary author out of North Carolina. Y'all should follow her and look into her stuff. And so I think that's another reason. That's a lot of what I've been reading recently, so it felt really familiar. But yeah, like, so I could say why I like it. You could say why you liked it. Why you thought.
Summarize the story.
So, for one thing, it starts in Atlantic City, so it's definitely Jersey Shore. And there's, aside from what people see on TV now, there's a really authentic population or demographic at the Jersey Shore. Like, I mean, these are beach people who just like live on there are people that live on the shore year round, you know, and so especially Atlantic City. So it's like this beach town. But it's also kind of one of these fringe towns where like it's not rural, it's not city, you know, and I think that's a different experience. And I think a lot of New Jersey is like that because you're around a lot of the big metropolitan areas. But then like New Jersey's the Garden State, right? You know, I mean, like there's roaming pastures and it. So this is definitely a beach town, and Davy's father has just been killed, fatally murdered. They own a convenience store, and he's been shot to death. And you don't know her relationship to the killing right away. Well, we can talk about story arc, but anyway, so she has her mom and her little brother, and they decide to go to New Mexico to stay with the dead father's sister and husband. And they're in this area of, is it New Mexico? Or
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
They're in this tech valley, basically, where they build bombs and weaponry, like, for the government. So, meanwhile, Davy is 14. She should be starting high school, but so she's there for a while without going back to high school, and it's just kind of about her coping with her dad's death and kind of all the pieces that go into that.
And trying to make friends in this new place. And
so that's another theme in all three of the books we realized too. All the girls are new girls. All the girls have moved. And so I moved the first time when I was in 6th grade, right after 6th grade. And then I moved the second time right after 9th grade, which puts me closer to Davy's age.
Right.
So I was moving for the second time.
Right.
And I moved from from Philly at that time to South Florida. So it was another huge culture shift. So even though it's not exactly the same, it's this culture shift. And I didn't like it where I was, you know, like I had a whole shift in family dynamic and I didn't like where I was. Like I still had the beach, which I really liked, but anyone who's ever spent time in South Florida, it's just a unique place. It's a lot of transplants. And anytime you have like beach or tourist culture, it's hard to really develop a like kind of local culture. And I definitely think that's changing. My mom's been there for like probably over 20 years now, right, Mom? And it's definitely there's more spots. I mean, it's developing, sure, and getting more conscious. But, yeah, so Davy, she's I liked her because she was the most, I felt, introspective character. Like, and she was really compassionate. Like,
she's the oldest of the characters.
She is the oldest
too.
of the characters.
Yeah. But she definitely was the most, like, questioning in terms of questioning the adults. You know,
authority.
The authority.
Why do I have to follow your rules? You didn't ask me when you made them.
Mm-hmm.
I say that. Every time I get a parking ticket. You did not ask me.
Question, and maybe this is jumping the gun. What was her mom's involvement after, like, her dad was shot?
So her mom and her brother were out shopping, like, for school clothes for the brother when the dad got shot. Mm-hmm. And what you end up learning is he dies in Davy's arms. Like, she's out with her boyfriend, like a new love. And early on in the story, there's a moment where he comes to see her and he just starts crying, and they have this tender moment on the beach, and he goes to kiss her and she can't kiss him because the memory of kissing him and having that emotional, good sexual feeling is totally juxtaposed with that night. And because the last time she felt that, they heard the shots. They were on the beach and they heard the shots and they just ran. Yeah, and it's interesting because we talked about how none of these characters are really shamed sexually. There is this invitation to sort of explore your body and stuff, but I would say Davies is the closest to it, and it's not shaming, but she has the conflict of not being able to enjoy the positive moments of adolescence because this tragedy has now struck.
Right, she can't separate.
And she can't separate. And then the mom is just...
Well, they moved to New Mexico because the mom needs help, basically.
She needs support.
She needs the support of the family to help with the kids so that she can sort of grieve.
Fall apart. I mean,
fall
she
apart.
needs to, like, just...
And she does fall
They're
apart.
high school sweethearts. The mom and dad were high school sweethearts who got pregnant. It's like a total modern-day real-life story. Like, and the dad could have been an all-star basketball player, but all you hear about is their love and had the kids and making it work. You hear the uncle who, so then this becomes one of the conflicts. So talk about subversive. You've got all these issues around violence and like gun control.
Right.
And our just cultural relationship to violence. And so Davy has this moment where she calls out her uncle who works building bombs, who they won't let her do driver's ed, and they won't let her, what's the other thing?
She wants to ride the bike without a helmet.
Oh, she doesn't wear a helmet when on her bike. She's got a couple things.
Right.
And they're like, it's so unsafe, it's so unsafe. And she's like, dude, you build bombs. Like, you can't sit here and tell me I can't take driver's ed because getting in a car is unsafe, and then you go to work every day and build bombs to keep us safe.
Right.
Like, meanwhile, my dad just got shot to death minding his own business, just working in our store, you know? And, like, it's so that's part of her, the Davy character, you know, like asking the questions and so then,
well, and there's a lot of racial conflict in that book too, because the people who work at the lab who are more in like the maintenance positions are Mexicans. Are they Mexicans or are they Native Americans?
There's both.
They're both, but they're both.
I'm looking for that page where she's at school.
They're both. I forget what they call them in the book.
I know, I'm looking for it.
But they're essentially brown people. And so the whites who are in this...
And they're like local, essentially.
Yeah,
like
they're
all
the
these
locals.
white people have come because they have PhDs to create this think tank of a town.
Right.
And
so all the white people live in one segregated neighborhood up on this hill.
Okay.
And it's and they even call it the hill. Don't they call it the
Yeah.
hill?
The stomps. The stomps dress in 10-gallon hats and cowboy boots. Coneheads, jocks, loadies. But I don't know where they talk about. Yeah.
But anyway, there's all of this tension between the whites and the non-whites that Davy is just kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like they go into one of the towns in New Mexico to shop for Christmas, and she's like really into it. Like it's all decorated out with like all this Latin culture and lights and everything, and she's really into it. And she's with her aunt and uncle, right? Or is she with friends? I forget.
She's with the rich girl.
With the rich girl friend.
She has this like rich girl friend that lives on Bathtub Row, which is like this exclusive part of town.
Because the houses were built with bathtubs.
Oh.
Yeah. But the parents are like, something about, oh, it's dirty. Like,
right.
I forget exactly the details, but the parents were like, oh, make sure you lock the door. Oh, just hold your bag closer to you. Like, they're just all paranoid being in this part of town that isn't the white part of town.
It's a really interesting commentary, too, on just, like, this idea of being street smart versus being book smart, or being, like, in this way that we culturally accept certain types of knowledge and understanding. And when you're 15, she turns 15 in the book, but when you're that age and you are explorative and you do have the questions because of what you're seeing and experiencing, like, it seems